All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's live cooking demonstration. My name is Ryan Smith. I am the Wellness Program Administrator with Georgia State University's Employee Development and Wellness Services. By trade, I am a registered dietitian, and I'm really excited to be cooking with you today. Now, before we get started, just a couple things. We are recording today's session. We record these so that you can view them again at a later time or share them with a colleague who may not have been able to attend today. All of our recordings are uploaded to our EDWS YouTube page, which we'll be sure to send a link to in a follow-up email. During today's presentation, if you've got any questions or comments, please make use of the chat box feature. We'll be sure to go over each of those at the end of today's presentation. And finally, if you experience any audio or visual issues, go ahead and use the chat box for that as well, but make sure you set your comment to go to all panelists. I'm joined today by my colleague, Cheryl Johnson-Ransaw, who will be online to assist with any WebEx difficulties you might encounter. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So in terms of equipment, this is definitely a simpler recipe. And in fact, I already saw a comment at the beginning of the presentation that said it looked like an easy recipe because there wasn't really a lot of cooking involved. And that is absolutely true. I know sometimes we get a little involved with pots and skillets and things that we're juggling on the stove, but today is nice and easy. This is really just a prep recipe where all the work that goes into it, chopping up a couple of vegetables, and we're going to use a small food processor today to make our lives a little easier. But no cooking, no heat required, nice and easy. So this is great to make a quick, healthy lunch when maybe you're in a bit of a time crunch, or you can use this recipe to meal prep and set up some good sandwiches for the rest of the week. So the name of this recipe is the loaded veggie sandwich, and you will soon see why it's called that. We are trying to pack in as much nutrition as we absolutely can. So let's go ahead and get started with things. In terms of equipment, we're going to need a cutting board. We're going to use a grater here. This is going to be for the carrots. Now, if you choose to substitute the carrots for a different vegetable, you won't need one of these, but this will get us the ability to shred those carrots to a nice texture for the sandwich. Otherwise, we're going to have a knife to help us chop things. And then the most important thing that you may or may not have access to is going to be a small food processor. Now, if you don't have one of these, they are phenomenal for a number of different applications, but you can pick up a tiny one like this for not that much money at all. I highly recommend it. This is a Ninja brand one, which is a well-known brand, but you can get another brand as well. They're pretty affordable, and it'll allow you to do things like make hummus, smoothie bowls, that sort of thing. If you don't have a food processor, you can use a blender for this. The biggest difference is going to be the blender's blades. Most of them are a little shorter and near the base of the blender, whereas you can see these blades reach a little higher. So you may have to use a spatula to push things down in the blender. We're going to be using this to make our homemade hummus today, and we'll talk about some alternatives to that as well if you prefer to just use store-bought. So what I am going to do is get started by just prepping some of our vegetables here. So we're going to be using an avocado, we're going to be using a tomato, we're going to be using a carrot, cucumber, and mixed greens. So like I said, it is a loaded veggie sandwich. We're trying to get all the vitamin and mineral content that we can into this thing. So what we're going to do, we'll start really simple. Let's go ahead and just chop our cucumber into some thin slices. Now, when I make this recipe, I typically aim to make about 4 total sandwiches. I like to meal prep it and help me get through the week. But you could also make multiple sandwiches for your friends or family members or whoever may be in your household. So I've gone ahead and rinsed this. We are going to leave the peel on it, though you can take that off if you prefer. And we're just going to do some really simple slices here, nothing complicated at all. Try not to make them too thick because this sandwich does have a tendency to get overloaded. Which if you've seen me make wraps or burritos or things like that, I always try to pack too many vegetables in it, and that's a problem I run into. So I'm going to stop there for now, just because we're going to be making just one sandwich today, so this is already plenty of cucumbers. But if you want to make the full 4 servings, which the recipe will include, go ahead and make use of the entire cucumber for that. So let's just stack these and set these off to the side for now. Now, in terms of nutrition, the cucumber is a great source of fiber. It's also got a lot of water in it, which helps it be low in calories while still feeling filling. And then you can also, whenever you're using the cucumber, one of the benefits that we get out of it is that water that's in it will help us meet our hydration goals for the day. So drinking water is important, of course, but fruits and vegetables help us reach that goal as well. So we'll set that over to the side. Next up, let's work on the carrot. I've gone ahead and rinsed it and peeled it. And now what I'm going to do is using my grater here, and I'm just going to use the medium-sized holes on this side. I'm going to grip the carrot. Now be careful when you do this. As your hand gets closer to the grater, we don't want to grate our hand. So make sure you're keeping a safe distance. Apply a firm pressure, but try to keep it in control so that it doesn't slip or anything like that. And we're going to grate about 1 to 2 medium carrots to get enough to make all 4 sandwiches. You can see I've already gone ahead and shredded some of this, but just for the sake of demonstration, we're just going to take it and press into it like that. Use your other hand to stabilize the grater so that it doesn't go anywhere, and just run it up and down. And as you start to form this kind of shear angle here, you can twist the carrot and then work on that other side just to keep it even as you go through the carrot. And like I said, about 1 to 2 medium carrots will do for this. And one of the benefits of carrots is they are a great source of vitamin A, which is important for a number of different functions in the body. A lot of times people say that carrots will help make your vision better. It won't actually make your eyesight better, but it is important for maintaining healthy eyesight. So if you want to keep your eyesight healthy, carrots are a good choice for that. The vitamin A, that's one of its functions. It's beneficial. All right. Now, as you get closer down to the nub, again, be careful with your hand there. I will just kind of readjust my position. And then at a certain point, if I'm not feeling super comfortable anymore, I'll just set this guy to the side and probably just munch on it later. Now, you can use your hand, or if you want to use a spatula or something, on the inside, not the side with the sharp parts, you can run your hand along it to scoop out any of the extra carrot pieces that are probably sticking to the grater. And you can see that 1 carrot got us quite a lot. So that's why 1 to 2 medium carrots will get you plenty for the sake of this recipe. I'm just going to move this over to the bowl with the rest of my shredded carrot, and we will continue prepping our vegetables. Now, in terms of our tomato is a good source of vitamin C, which is great for immune function. It is also a source of lycopene, which if you've attended any of my demonstrations recently, I'm always trying to get tomatoes into things. Lycopene is an antioxidant, which means it's able to help with some cancer prevention properties. So it's really good at helping the body do its job to keep cells healthy and repair things. So I love using tomatoes. When I cut this to go on a sandwich, I'm going to cut, medium thickness slices, but I'm going to use a serrated knife. So most of the time I'm using my chef's knife here, but when it comes to a tomato, a serrated knife tends to be better for getting a more controlled cut. If you use a chef's knife, you press into it, the tomato might squish a little bit, it may move around, but a serrated knife allows you to essentially saw through it, which helps keep everything intact and gets you a nice even slice like that. So I'm probably just going to make 2 medium slices here for this one sandwich. If you're making all 4 sandwiches, go ahead and use the whole tomato, get these prepped up. Then you can have them on hand for additional sandwiches, salads, wraps, whatever you may want to do. So if you do end up with extra vegetables, you've already got them chopped and you can add them to other meals, which is great. So chop their tomatoes, chop their cucumber. Let's go ahead and try this avocado. Now, avocados are a very popular food. They are a very, very heart-healthy food because they have a higher proportion of unsaturated fat compared to saturated fat. So saturated fat is found in a lot of different foods, and unfortunately, it's not very heart-healthy. It can increase our cholesterol and increase our risk of various issues. So we want to try to choose heart-healthy fats, and avocados are great for that. Now, when you're selecting an avocado, what you want to do is you want to find one that's sort of in this middle ground in terms of firmness. If you pick it up and you gently press into it and it feels like a rock, it's not ready. You can buy it, but it's going to need a day or 2 to continue to ripen and continue to soften. It's a little bit of a guessing game to hopefully figure out, when is an avocado going to be ready or not. If you press into it gently and it just collapses on you, that avocado is no good. It's either been bruised or it's overripe. And when you cut it open, it's probably going to be very brown. Now, this avocado, what you want it to do is yield to gentle pressure, which means when you put a little bit of pressure on it, you feel a little bit of give, but it doesn't collapse fully. Now, we'll see how this one is. Sometimes when I do these demonstrations, you do your best to try to pick a good one, and you may open it up, and there may be a little brown in there. It's still edible, but the texture is just a little altered. So what we'll do for these is I have gone ahead and rinsed it. Even though we're not going to eat the outside of the avocado, we want to rinse it because when we cut into it, if there's any dirt or bacteria on the outside, the knife will push it into the inside where we will eat part of it. So always rinse it, even though you're not going to eat the outside of it. You can find the stem. There's a little circle there that will mark it. And what we're going to do is use our knife. We're going to line it up with that stem. And if you haven't cut an avocado before, inside of it is a pit. It kind of looks like a giant acorn almost. It's just a big, round, brown, just really hard pit. And you will not be able to cut through that, so do not try to cut through it. So lining up with the stem, we're going to gently press our knife into it. And you can see it'll get about this far in, and you're going to hit resistance, and that's when you've hit the pit. Once you've hit the pit, again, not trying to cut through it, we're going to gently continue to apply pressure as we rotate the avocado. And what we're essentially doing is cutting it in half around the pit. Now, if your avocado is ripe and all has gone well, when you've made a full rotation, you should be able to pretty easily pull it apart like that. And this is a pretty good looking avocado. We've got a lot of green. You can see it looks like there's a little bruising here, some brown on that side. If you don't like that, you can absolutely just work around it. But for the most part, this was a good find. Now, you can get this guy out by using a spoon to scoop it out. A lot of people will take the knife and just dig it in like that and then twist, and it'll come right out with it. So let's just set that over to the side. That part is not edible. Do not try to eat that part. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to get a bowl here, and we're going to just mash this avocado. We're going to essentially turn it into a spread to put on part of our sandwich. It'll add a really nice creaminess to things and add those heart-healthy fats that will help this meal feel a little more satisfying. So you can use a spoon, a knife, really whatever you want to do to scoop the avocado flesh out. I'm going to grab a spoon here real quick. And to get as much of the avocado as you can, just try to slide it in between the skin and the meat of the avocado, if you will. And I'm trying to avoid that brown part. And we're just going to scoop it out. It should come out easily if it's ripe. If you're getting a lot of trouble or sticking to the skin, unfortunately that avocado may not quite have been ripe yet, but you can do the best that you can. And now in this bowl, I'm just going to use this wooden spoon, or you can use a metal spoon or a fork, whatever you prefer, to mash it up a little bit. Now, we don't have to get perfect here. It does not have to be like pureed and super blended. We're just trying to get it to a spreadable texture so that we can put it on the sandwich. And that's really the end goal. If you prefer for it to be a little chunkier, almost like guacamole, you can absolutely do that. Just mash it a little bit less. If you want it to be smoother, take a little more time to mash it, but it shouldn't take too much work. You can see that that's mashing pretty easily there. And that is going to be going onto our sandwich. So since it makes 4 sandwiches, you'll use about 1/4 of an avocado on each sandwich, and that will divide up nicely. So let's set that over there. We've sliced some tomatoes, sliced some cucumber, mashed some of our avocado. We've shredded our carrots, and then the last vegetable was our mixed greens. Those are ready to go. They're rinsed and prepared, so we're just going to set those to the side. So the next big step is to get our hummus for this. Now, this sandwich is plant-based right now, but we'll talk about some modifications we can make if you prefer to. And we've got a really, really great set of vegetables here, giving us fiber, vitamin A, vitamin C, all sorts of excellent nutrients. And then we've got healthy fats coming from the avocado. We don't have a lot of protein yet, and we're going to talk about how we can incorporate that. So for the bread, I am using wide sandwich bread, which are the slices that are a little larger than your typical sandwich bread. I recommend that for this sandwich because it is a lot of vegetables we're trying to fit on there, and generally all these foods are pretty low calorie, so it still adds up to a nice amount. Now I'm using whole wheat bread that I've toasted because it gives that sandwich a nice like crunchy outside, which I like a lot. And the reason that we're using whole wheat bread, 100% whole wheat bread, is whole grains are a healthier choice whenever we're choosing a grain food or a carbohydrate containing food. Compared to white bread, whole wheat bread has more protein, it's got more B vitamins, and it's got more fiber. So we talked about fiber in our vegetables, and we're bringing even more in with our bread. Fiber is great for making us feel satisfied. It helps us maintain a healthy cholesterol. It can help with healthy blood sugar levels, and it can be useful for weight management as well because we might eat less if we feel satisfied with these higher fiber foods. So there's a lot of nutritional benefits there. So with these whole wheat slices of bread, these wider slices here, this is just a Kroger brand, there's 5 grams of protein per slice of bread. So just from the bread here, the 2 slices, we've got 10 grams of protein already, which is a great start. And to pull in some more plant-based protein, we are going to make some homemade hummus. So again, if you don't have a food processor, you can use a blender for this. And if you don't have a blender, what I'd recommend doing is just using store-bought hummus. If you want to save time, store-bought hummus is a great option. It is certainly pricier. A can of chickpeas is $1, and then the other ingredients like olive oil, lemon juice, those are probably things you have on hand, or you can buy a stock of them, and then you can make your own hummus for a long amount of time with it. So we are doing a homemade version today. Gives us a little more control over what goes into it and definitely saves us some money in the long run. So this is a can of garbanzo beans or chickpeas. That's the same thing. I tried to get the low sodium variety because I'm trying to watch the total amount of salt we're putting into this. So I rinsed and drained a 15-ounce can of that, and we're just going to add these chickpeas into the food processor. And since I'm using a smaller food processor, I do own a large one, but I wanted to keep it simple for today. You can see that we've already filled up quite a lot of it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just pulse the chickpeas by themselves a little bit, help break them down, and just kind of get them ready to then be pureed with everything else. So I'm going to set up the food processor here. And I'm going to mute my microphone for just a second so you don't have to hear the food processor. But again, we're just going to do a few pulses, kind of compact the chickpeas down a little bit. All right. So you can see that that helped start the process. So I'm going to take a spatula and then just scoot those chickpeas closer to the bottom of the food processor to make room for the other ingredients we'll be adding to make our hummus. So a basic hummus is going to consist mostly of chickpeas, garlic, salt and pepper, olive oil, lemon juice, and an ingredient called tahini, which we'll talk about. If you've caught some of my other demonstrations, you might already be familiar with that, but we'll review it today for those who may not have used it before. So we're going to do 2 tablespoons of olive oil, giving us some more heart-healthy fats for this meal. We're going to do 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. You can use fresh lemon juice if you want. That'll be a little pricier. I'm keeping it simple with just the bottled lemon juice here. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of table salt. So again, we want it to be salty and savory, but we're trying to control the total amount. For our garlic, I'm going to use minced garlic, and we're going to do just 1/2 teaspoon of it. You can add extra if you want to. That is totally up to you. Some people like a really garlicky hummus. Others want to keep it a little more mild. So 1/2 teaspoon of minced garlic. And then the last ingredient is our tahini. So tahini is sort of like peanut butter in a way, except it's made from sesame seeds. That's kind of the best equivalent I can think of. So sesame seeds, imagine those are turned into peanut butter through a similar process. You keep it in the fridge. You can buy it just at a regular grocery store. You'll be able to find it there. And it's a good source of some heart-healthy fats, as well as it has a little bit of protein in it, similar to peanut butter. Now, if you've got a container of this already and it's been sitting in your fridge, I always want to remind people to stir it because like natural peanut butter, the fat will sort of separate from the rest of it. So we're just going to give it a stir. And we're going to put 1 tablespoon of this into our hummus. And just to show you what it looks like, I'll kind of demonstrate here. You can see it's pretty creamy. It's a lot like a natural peanut butter. It's just that brown texture. And it's got sort of a nutty flavor to it that's going to add a good savoriness to our hummus. So we'll put a tablespoon of that in there. And tahini is used in a lot of Mediterranean dishes, Middle Eastern inspired dishes. It's a great ingredient to have on hand, and it lasts for quite a while in the refrigerator. Okay, so now what we will do is we will go ahead and pulse this all together now. Our goal at this point is to get this to a smooth texture like a creamy hummus would be if it were store-bought. So I'll mute my microphone again, and we will get to blending. Right. And depending on your food processor, you might be good now. You might need to give it a few more pulses. That is just going to kind of depend on how much you fill it up. A little trial and error there. But Mine is pretty smooth, just like I want it to be there. If you have stuff at the top that hasn't been blended, you can always use the spatula like I did earlier to push it down and just give everything an equal chance to get mixed, but we are looking pretty good here. So I'm going to remove the blade and try to scoop that hummus off of there, make sure we get it all in the container. And here, I'll try to show you a little bit of what it looks like. So pretty similar to your store-bought hummus, just kind of a creamy chickpea mixture there with that salt, pepper, and lemon and those healthy fats. So we are now ready to assemble our sandwich. That's all the work we needed to do. And again, if you're low on time, store-bought hummus works great, or you can have already prepped the hummus in advance to speed things up. So with our 2 slices of bread, what we're going to do is aiming for about 2 to 3 tablespoons on one side of the bread, we are going to spread our hummus. And this is going to kind of work like our food glue, right? It's going to help us keep those vegetables stuck to the bread. Whenever I make big sandwiches, everything's trying to escape, especially those shredded carrots. They're going to be trying to jump everywhere. So we'll put the hummus on one side. And then similarly, on the other side, I'm going to use the avocado that we mashed up and get some of that creamy, savory avocado on here and spread that around. Almost like we're making avocado toast, right? We're just doing that on that one piece of bread. And these two will make for a nice combination whenever we add those other vegetables on there, because we've got different flavors coming from different sides of the sandwich. So the next thing I like to do is usually try to add in the ingredients that are more likely to fall out. Looking at you, shredded carrots. So I'm going to take some of these shredded carrots and just sprinkle them on here, trying to get them in contact with that hummus so that they don't try to take off on me once we put the sandwich together and start trying to eat it. Next, what I'm probably going to do, let's see, we'll take some of these greens and just layer them on here. Now, the greens tend to, kind of spring out as well, but when you press the sandwich down, it should be fine. I'm going to take a slice of tomato and stick that on there. And then let's get some cucumber slices in here too. See if we can, we'll get those on the other side so that we're mixing it around more evenly. And then we are going to top our sandwich. And again, it's called a loaded vegetable sandwich. You can see how thick that is. There are vegetables popping out of every side of this thing. It is so nutritious. Try to get you a closer look at that. I do recommend toasting the bread. I think the crunchiness it adds is really, really nice. And this is best served cold. In fact, if you make the hummus ahead of time and refrigerate it, I think it really, really helps the flavor personally. I like it to be really chilled. And if you have leftover hummus, of course, you'll keep that in the refrigerator as well. So the recipe I'll be sending out will give you ingredients for making about 4 of these sandwiches, but you can always scale down and just make yourself a sandwich if you're ever in the mood for just one of them. In terms of nutrition, this is a very healthy meal. I mentioned the fiber, all the different vitamins and minerals coming in. We've got protein coming from those whole wheat pieces of bread with some additional protein from the tahini and the chickpeas that we added into the hummus. So that's really boosting that total protein amount. Everything here is plant-based, but if you are not specifically a plant-based person or you're looking to add a little more protein in it, I can definitely see some like sliced turkey, like turkey lunch meat, going really well in the middle of this sandwich. Keep everything else the same, that avocado, that hummus, all these wonderful vegetables, and some sliced turkey in there would kind of take a regular boring turkey sandwich into something a lot healthier and a lot more exciting. So I encourage you to experiment with that if you do want to add in some animal proteins to this particular meal. So once you've prepped all these vegetables, just make sure to store them in the refrigerator if you do have leftovers, just like the hummus. And if you make the sandwiches in advance, you can make the full sandwich and keep it in the fridge, though after a day or two, you'll start to notice certain ingredients getting soggy, particularly the greens don't do really well when they're in contact with like the hummus and the avocado. So you might want to keep things separate and then kind of assemble the morning of, which is a pretty quick thing to do. We're really just spreading some stuff on bread and throwing some vegetables on there. So we are going to send out a copy of the recipe along with the nutrition information so you can see how it might fit into your day. And I see we've had some messages in the chat, so I'm going to take a look at those and see what we can talk about. So someone asked what brand food processor that was. So this is a Ninja brand food processor. Again, you can get all sorts of different brands, but I can attest to the Ninja one. My large food processor I have and my small one are both Ninja brand, and I've had them for years and they're still working great. So definitely a good investment. Oh, someone said they've been washing their avocados after seeing one of the previous videos. Awesome. Yeah, any food that you're going to cut into remember that that knife can push things from the outside to the inside. So giving them a quick rinse is a good way to stay healthy. Okay, here's a question. Are the shredded carrots that are in a bag, like the pre-bought ones, coated with preservatives? I hear that shredded cheese is coated with something to keep it from sticking. And then I saw another commenter, I think, address that a little bit, talking about cellulose to keep it from sticking together. So whenever you buy a pre-prepared food, sometimes there may be a rinse that's added to it to help it stay fresh for longer. They may have different things to try to preserve it. All of those things are deemed safe by the FDA, meaning that they are safe to eat. It is tested and it is okay to have items with that on there. If you prefer to avoid it though, of course, making your own version, doing it yourself at home is not overly difficult. And you usually save money because anytime you're buying a pre-prepared something, you save on time, but you spend more money for the convenience. And then if you do it yourself, costs a little more time, but saves you some money. So it's kind of a trade-off. You can certainly mix and match and just do whatever fits it into your lifestyle. But the big takeaway I'd say here is that if you are eating things like carrots, if you are eating things that are fruits and vegetables, you are doing well for your body. So, count that as a win for yourself. Okay, here's a question about, do you give people advice from other institutions that are trying to learn to eat healthier? Great question. So for people at our institution at Georgia State University, we offer one-on-one health coaching where we are able to set goals and go over a plan. Unfortunately, at this time, I'm just one dietitian here, so I am kept pretty busy at Georgia State. But other institutions, if you access the USG Wellbeing platform, there are resources on there that will actually let you connect with health coaches to work on things like diet, physical activity, stress management. So definitely explore that USG Wellbeing platform. You're able to work on your nutrition goals with a professional trained coach through that free of charge. So really want to push that and encourage it for those who may be attending from other institutions today. Thank you for asking that. Right. With the hummus, how would the prep vary if using dried beans? Good question. So canned stuff saves us a lot of time today because we just drop them in. If you are using dried beans, you will need to go through the entire process of basically, cooking those beans, getting them to a place where they are ready to eat. Because since we're not doing any cooking to the hummus, all the ingredients that go into it need to be safe to eat on their own. So if you want to use dried things like dried chickpeas or garbanzo beans, you'll need to cook them according to the package directions, and then you would put them into the hummus. For that reason, I like doing the can because it saves time. But when we were talking about saving money, buying the dried stuff and making it yourself is definitely a big money saver. Okay, here's another question. Husband is not a fan of avocado or hummus. Other options to get it to stick together? Good question. So when we think about a sandwich, just traditionally, usually a sandwich is going to be a little dry if we're just thinking about the bread. So in addition to helping things stick together, we're also looking to kind of give it a little bit of moisture through things that are creamy like that. It helps improve the textural experience. A lot of sandwiches conventionally might have something like mayonnaise on it or some other form of sauce. Really, you can make this sandwich whatever you want. The goal that we're doing here is, or what we're trying to accomplish here is to swap out as many ingredients as we can for healthier alternatives. White bread for whole wheat bread, putting more vegetables in it, choosing leaner meats. So when it comes to things like that, if you want to use mayo, you absolutely can. Just do so in moderation. If there's a sauce you like, you can use that as well. But again, do it in moderation and focus on incorporating more of those vegetables. A healthy sandwich can be made in a variety of different ways. So, that's entirely up to you how you want to customize that and balance the flavor with that nutrition. Okay, and then I see here's a question. If we wanted to do sun-dried tomato hummus, how many sun-dried tomatoes would we add? That's an excellent question. I have never personally made sun-dried tomato hummus. I'd recommend just looking up a recipe and seeing about how many they typically use. When you're making a hummus, really, you can kind of infuse it with anything you want. If you want to chop up like roasted red pepper that you buy in the jars, you could have that in the food processor and it would get chopped up. I don't know the exact quantity of sun-dried tomatoes I'd use. What you could do is make your hummus like this. add in maybe 2 sun-dried tomatoes, blend it and see how it looks, maybe try a taste to see if there's enough of that flavor in there, and then sort of continue to add as you see fit. Since we're not baking or cooking this, we can always add more ingredients to it and just sort of tweak it as we go. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions. I know we're a little over time today, but I just want to thank everyone so much for attending. So keep an eye out in your email for that follow-up. It's going to include the recipe, the nutrition information, as well as a link to a short survey. If you could take a couple minutes out of your day and just let us know what you thought of the session, we really appreciate feedback, and it helps us create better programs for you in the future. If you are not already on our mailing list, we'd love to add you. We do programs like this all the time. We do 2 cooking demonstrations a month. We do guided meditation, mindfulness breaks, all sorts of excellent activities. And you can email us at edws@gsu.edu, and we can get you on that weekly mailing list so you can stay up to date on events. And we'll go ahead and put that email in the chat so that people can reach out if they want to be added to the mailing list. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you so much. And I will take one last opportunity to plug an upcoming program we have. You may have already seen an email about it, but we are partnering with USG in March for National Nutrition Month for a special program called Food and You. This is a USG well-being program. It's a 4-week program that will focus on teaching people things about nutrition and also teaching them healthy recipes. I'll be working with another dietitian, Melissa Brillhart, from the University of West Georgia. We're really excited about it. Registration is open now through March 5th through the USG Wellbeing platform. So I want to encourage people to check that out. We're trying to get as many people registered as we can. And you are eligible to earn those USG Wellbeing points if you participate in all the activities with that program. So check that out. Have a great rest of your day and keep an eye out for that email. Thank you.